FIOS One, the one place for everything on our island.
Thank you for joining us. You're watching Money on Main Street right here on FIOS One News Long Island. Now today we want to get you some expert advice from our featured CEO of the week. That would be none other than Rob Basso. Basso is not only featured as one of the top 40 business leaders of Long Island under 40, he's also the author of The Everyday Entrepreneur, and he also owns his payroll and HR services company, Advantage Payroll Services. It's quite a resume. Thanks for joining us, Rob.
Thanks for having me.
So today we want to talk about those entrepreneurs, those folks who decided to go out on their own, possibly during the recession if they got laid off. But the downside, when is it time to give up on the dream? What are the red flags that maybe this wasn't such a great idea after all?
Well, let's look at a statistic first. The SBA says nearly 50% of all small businesses that start fail within the first 5 years. So step one before you even get there is make sure that the business you choose to go into is really for you. But the red flags are, did you properly capitalize yourself? Did you have enough cash in the bank? And it could take 6-8 months worth of reserves to make sure you can actually fund the business. Are you getting the proper response from the marketplace for the product or service that you're offering? And are you truly enjoying what you're doing? You decided to get into a business, hopefully not just for the monetary rewards, but hopefully for lifestyle rewards. So those are just 3 simple things that you really have to be cognizant of before you're ready to fold up shop.
What are some questions that you need to ask yourself money-wise?
Well, first off, do you have the financial wherewithal to actually keep the business up and running? Are your receivables out more than 120 days? How much money do you have out on the street? Nowadays, there's a lot of electronic payment systems which can really help you capture that cash. Cash is king, especially when you want to get financing. Do you have a financial relationship with the bank? That is extremely important. Do they treat you like a trusted small business owner? And can you get financing if you need financing? So those are some of the most important things.
Okay, now options. Bankruptcy, debt consolidation, what are some other options?
Well, one of the things I would like to say is don't find yourself in the position where you actually have to file for bankruptcy, because it really does create significant distress on all parts of your life. So when I talk to small and medium-sized business owners, I try to tell them, make sure that you know when to cut the string. People go into small businesses because they want to lead a certain lifestyle. They want to have their own business, but the reality is it's not necessarily for everybody. You need to look at these warning signs way early to see if it's time to cut the rope, and it's different for everybody, whether you're in manufacturing or you're a stay-at-home business. If you're at stay-at-home business and you're working out of your basement, your overhead is very low. If you're renting very expensive space, you might have to make that decision much sooner. All of these things could have been avoided if you actually did the proper planning before you started the business. It all starts with the plan.
Okay, so let's say you've realized perhaps it wasn't for you. You've decided you are going to go on ahead and close up shop. Yeah. What is your checklist? What does it look like?
Well, you need to make sure, first off, that you've paid as much of the debts that you've accrued as possible. Because the worst thing that you can do is pile up debt upon debt upon debt. And then basically what ends up happening is that gets passed down to the economy. And especially if you've done business with local vendors, you're basically not paying your bills to the small business community that helps support you while you are in business. So I would say pay off as much as you can without putting yourself physically out on the street. Now,
do you let them know, or does that send warning signals to them that, hey, maybe I shouldn't do business with this guy?
Well, I think that most of the time people don't let them know and they try to pay down their debt. I'm not an attorney, but I would imagine that it wouldn't be one of those things that you'd be running around telling everybody, by the way, I filed for bankruptcy. There are certain situations where you have to tell your vendors that you're a debtor in possession. It's called a DIP status, and you have to really consult with an attorney to get that advice.
Okay, very quickly, let's say I'm thinking of going out on my own. What kind of cushion should I be looking for so I don't end up in this situation when things go down?
Well, years ago they said 6 months. Personally, it depends on the industry. Again, if you're working out of your home, your cushion could be a lot longer, especially if you have a spouse actually that has income that's coming in. If you need to go out and rent space, if you need to go out and buy equipment, you need to have at least a year cushion, because starting a business is tough. We heard the statistic. 50% fail in 5 years. You don't want to be one of those 50%. Make sure you have at least a year in the bank.
That's a lot.
It's a lot, but it's important.
Sounds good. Thank you very much. A lot of great advice there. And stay with us. Money on Main Street will be right back.